The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine.
Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell.
And this is Peyton Jones.
And we're just trying to figure out if Richard Simmons is alive or not. Is he alive?
You know, we pretty much have like a little pre-show. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking on Wikipedia, and that's the fountain of all knowledge, if you didn't know that.
And it's not fake. Nothing's fake on Wikipedia.
His name is Milton Teagle Simmons. Milton Teagle. What is a Teagle? I don't think I want to know.
I gotta go take a Teagle. That's what that is.
Okay. But he was born July 12th, 1948. Hey, welcome to the Church Planter Podcast, where we read you Wikipedia posts. He's a semi-retired, so he's out there somewhere. Now, here's the funny thing. It says years active, 1968 to 2014. So he got started when he was 20 years old. This is more than you want to know about Richard Simmons, but you didn't ask. So, you know, and you didn't say no. So we're telling you, but it does say 2020 to the present. So apparently he was like one of those, like the Watchmen, you know, where he's this old, crusty, beat up superhero. And suddenly, like, you know, he sees the bat signal in the sky and he's like, 2020, I must return and save America. So in 2020, he's come out of hiding. He's come out of the Batcave. Now, I have no idea. And again, I don't think I want to know what Richard Simmons has been doing. But yeah, so last I knew, in the 90s, he was doing Deal-A-Meal, where you had a little deck of cards and you deal what you were going to eat that day. And apparently it was a nice way to lose weight and get fit.
Is he alive? That's all I want to know.
There is no record of his death. Okay. But then again, I would ask you, Pete, is JFK alive? Is Elvis alive? Right?
Is Tupac? I think we know the answer to all of that.
Does a date? I mean, you know, Richie Manic from the Manic Street Preachers?
Haven't you seen Better Off? No, not Better Off Dead. What was the one with Bruce Willis and his wife and his mistress, and they're like drinking the potion that keeps them alive even though their bodies are falling apart? What was that called?
Great movie. Death Becomes Her?
Death Becomes Her. We saw Elvis was still alive, like JFK was still alive, everyone was still alive. They just could no longer, you know, be out in public because
Michael Jackson. I mean, they're all out there. They're hanging out in a Bahamian island somewhere. And they could be, Pete, they could actually be on Sealand. They could have retired on the Principality of Sealand.
No, Sealand's not big enough.
I don't know, though. We've never mined the underground depths because, you know, that tube, they could go down. I think it's short story time for Peyton. You know, you guys don't know this, but I have these crazy ideas for like short stories, and they're too demented. Like that would be one, is the underground world of the Principality of Sealand. And I would write a story about all these guys living down there. And
but they're all dwarfs and elves. And
so one of my short stories is an epic.
Do you write like short stories because you're short?
Oklahoma. So I had the raddest short story idea that would make such a rad movie, but it would have to be entirely cast by dwarves or little people. So, yeah, nice. I would. It's pretty epic, dude. It's like the secret island of Dr. Moreau, the Running Man. I mean, all these things come together. It's
the Running Man. Epic. What a great movie!
Oh, I'm telling you, like you got to know this. I almost want to share my idea, but it's too good. Then it's out there in the world. Maybe some church planter hard on his luck and needing money decides to do it, and he signs that Hollywood contract, and it's all over. And I'm just crying. Like, that was my movie. That was my chance at fame and fortune.
And I think that would happen with you because I see you do that with your book stuff.
I
shared that idea with him and I didn't get credit.
Yep.
Oh, which is always funny to me because I don't have any ideas. I've never had an original idea in my life. There's nothing original that goes through my head.
Well, that's the opposite for me. I don't think
you're the creative.
Useful. I don't think anything useful goes. You have useful stuff though that goes through your head. I think I have creative things. And
I don't know that I have useful stuff. I just think I take action on ideas, and if you just do that, it doesn't even matter how useful the ideas are.
Right.
It's that action piece that generally makes things work out. But so I do have a funny story to share. It's kind of related to what I've been going through, but I'm not going to give everyone the whole kit and caboodle. So, the last episode we had, we weren't sure if I was going to die in surgery or not. I lived.
Yeah, you lived.
I think that's important to point out. I am alive. This isn't Death Becomes Her. But so I still don't want to get into detail with everything I had to have done because they're actually not done. In fact, they were planning on doing a follow-up surgery this last Monday. And that got pushed off. And so now I'm really bummed. And then you gave me even more bummed information before we started the podcast.
I know.
That's kind of bugging me. But
so what have you been up to? Tell me how you've been.
This is the part I had to share. Okay. So part of what I had done is I had a hernia fixed. And I've had this hernia for like 20 years. It's actually back in 2001, I had my gallbladder removed. And so I have like this huge incision on my chest. And I've always had like this, I thought it was scar tissue for 20 years. I thought it was scar tissue. And then, you lose a lot of weight, right? So I've lost about 120 pounds or so. And now it like really shows, right? Because when you're really fat, it's like, whatever, a little bit of scar tissue. Then you lose the whole belly, and it's like, wow, dude, I'm like freaking alien, right? This thing's about ready to come bursting out of my chest. Like it was awesome for doing. I'd draw on it little alien faces and push it out. It was great.
Oh, dude, were you doing the whole? What's that? The one Total Recall where the dude's got the little human living out of his chest.
Quaid. I
forgot about it. It's so cheesy. Quaid. Oh man.
So
it's so good. Where's Brandon Brooks when you need him?
I know, right? If he's smart, he quit listening to this podcast years ago.
No, he still listens.
Every once in a while he does. He sends us a text message with a picture on it.
Well, I texted him, it says a lot about my relationship with him that when I find pictures from my childhood of me in like the Gamorrean Guard Halloween costume my mom epically put together, I text him. He's my go-to. It's like, hey, dude, check that, like randomly. And he never misses catching that ball. He sent me an epic string last night of everything. So, but anyways, continue on.
So anyway, after the surgery, I have to wear this compression outfit. It's more than just a compression shirt because it's more like it's like a wrestling outfit. Like it's like little shorts too, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny because the other night I'm talking to Jamie. I'm like, "Hun, this compression shirt." I go, I kind of feel like it's false advertising because I look at myself in the mirror when I got this thing on and I look pretty good, right? I'm like, look at my chest. I got like abs now. There's no stomach at all. I'm like, dude, this is total false advertising. I think I'm going to wear one of these forever. And she goes, why do you think that lady who invented Spanx is a billionaire? And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, she was onto something.
Why did we invent that?
I don't know.
Dang.
Spanx for men. What do we call it?
I wonder, sorry, I don't mean to go back to Richard Simmons, but I wonder if we could invent like a whole line of Richard Simmons things, like they did with Bob, you got me the shirt. Why am I blanking on
Bob Ross?
Bob Ross. Why couldn't we do that? He's got the afro. He's one of those like weird relics of the past, a past era of bygone days that people would like trip out on. Because that's what Bob Ross was. I don't think
anybody wants to wear a picture of Richard Simmons.
Was Bob Ross? No, you would have said the same about Bob Ross. I think you're wrong. I think I'm onto something.
I'm not going to go into why I think, but I'm pretty sure no one's going to wear a picture of Richard Simmons.
I don't know. What if it said deal a meal with big exclamation
What if it
marks?
just said sweating to the oldies?
Did you ever see, though, the parody that Eddie Murphy did on Saturday Night Live of Richard Simmons' show?
I never watched Saturday Night Live.
Oh
I was
my
a
gosh.
Christian, so
He
I didn't fill my mind with that.
the Little Richard Simmons show, and it was Little Richard played by Eddie Murphy, and he goes, "She fatty, 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 she fatty, fatty, fatty," and he's doing all the aerobics like they used to on there, and he goes, "She fatty, 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 if she stepped on your feet, she would mash your toe." Oh, dude, it's hilarious. If you get a chance to see it, it's worth seeing.
Nice.
Did you freeze up? Are you
No.
just stunned? Did I stun you?
You stunned me. I was in shock.
Yes, it would today not be PC because it would be considered to be fat shaming, but comedy of a bygone era was such.
So this couple at our church who they got 2 young kids around our kids' age. And then every Sunday our kids just go and hang out with them. And of course we're anti-maskers, so we don't wear masks here at the Mitchell household whenever possible. And so it turns out the family they always hang out with, they got the Rona.
Oh,
I know. I'm like,
wow.
Great. So now we got to watch and see if our kids get it.
But do you not think, like, when you go out, like, just if the possibility, because I don't know what your views, I don't know what you brought you to that, if it's, not wanting to be controlled, or you don't believe it's the deal, or
I am the guy that would wear.
Aren't you worried about getting it though?
Well, the masks don't help. The science is really firm on that. The masks don't help at all.
Yeah.
The pseudoscience, this crap they're coming up with now. In fact, it's all over the CDC website. They're like, they have all these studies that they've published on there for years showing how masks do not help stop the spread of influenza, which is the same. It's the same size virus as coronavirus. But now, because it's politically, we've got to wear masks. Now they're like changing their tune, but it's all over their website. And then they go, by the way, masks won't help with all the California wildfires, the smoke.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, the smoke particles are way bigger than the coronavirus.
Wait, so they say that, because I heard the opposite, that it stops the spread. Doesn't stop you from getting it.
No, it doesn't.
But if someone else has it, it stops from them breathing it out.
Nope, not at all. That's why the numbers keep going up. Everyone's wearing masks and the numbers are going up.
Huh.
But that's not the reason.
Well, they blame you. They blame you. They say it's all the anti-maskers out there
who don't have it. Yes. Right. Yes. It's all of us. But I mean, so that's all beside the point, right? Like my thing is I'm a freedom guy. So if you tell me I have to do something, I'm immediately not going to do it.
Right.
Because you don't have the authority to dictate to me what I'm going to do. You don't have the authority to close down my business. You don't have the authority to tell me I'm not essential to my kids and to my wife, and that I can't earn a living and to put a roof over their head and food on the table. Well, you don't have the authority to do that.
I'll wear a mask. I'm a mask wearer. I've got Eden. I appreciate if there's a possibility it's going to keep Eden, because this could wipe Eden out.
Hey, look, I completely.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying I don't feel. I'm sure your mind's made up. I can't. I'm not saying that to change you. I'm just saying, like, we do that. But I do also believe that it is weird to say that is going to stop the spread. They say, 98% of this. And so then they allow businesses to operate, but then they suddenly say, no, businesses can operate even if you follow these social distancing guidelines. I think the inconsistencies with it is what's frustrating. And,
sure.
I definitely, like, Jonathan Ferguson's mom died of COVID, guy that, a missionary.
Did she really?
Yeah,
wow,
she died
rough.
of COVID. With no pre-existing conditions, totally healthy, tennis player, active lady. And
where'd she live?
That I don't know. But,
hey, hold on a second, man. I got to take this call.
All right. Welcome to the Church Planner Podcast, indeed, where we take care of other business. More important, but if you don't like it, like Pete used to say at the end of the show, you can request your money back. Remember that old exit line?
Yeah. Look, if you don't like it, we'll give you money back. No problem.
Oh, it's so funny.
And if you give us a 2-star review, we're going to make fun of you on
You're
the podcast.
only giving us cannon fodder.
Yeah.
So we're totally deal with that.
I remember cyber stalking people. Who is this person that gave us a 2-star?
But we didn't just cyber stalk him. We did it on the podcast.
Well, I did, because I was like, oh, he's a Biola grad. Oh, he's a failed church planner. That's why he gave us a 2-star. Like,
man. But, the last guy did that. He came back around.
I don't think he gave us a 2-star. I think he complained about it. But I don't think he was the 2-star guy.
No, didn't he come? One of the guys who was 2-star came back. He repented. And he came back and left an episode or a review later and said, I was one of the 2-star reviews months ago. I've since fallen in love with this podcast. I was wrong.
I've since changed my ways.
I'm just saying, look, church planner, if you're trying to hustle on the, the shuck and jive and make a living on the daily grind, I'm giving you, Pete used to help give you entrepreneurial gold. I just dropped entrepreneurial gold. You could bring Richard Simmons back. I'm just saying, whole product line. You could have Richard Simmons headbands for the gym. You could have Richard Simmons weight sets. You could have t-shirts.
Okay, what man in his right mind is going to wear a Richard Simmons headband to the gym?
Hey, leg warmers. Bring back male leg warmers. That was his, and dolphin shorts. Satin silk stripy dolphin shorts and if you had his face, kind of at the bottom, and then it was there, and then, and you did that.
Who would wear Richard Simmons' face on their clothes? He's not Bob Ross. I don't think you understand. It's not the same.
But he's got the afro, and it's, he's likable.
He's a happy tree.
He doesn't hurt anybody.
Let's put a happy bird in the happy tree. Oh, look at that. That's Bob Ross. That's what we need more of.
I know, and he calms you, but, Richard Simmons, he motivates and excites you. He gets you all excited. And, it was funny. If you've never saw the Richard Simmons show, like, no, I won't go there. Never mind.
So
just Google it.
I know this guy. His name is Tim Paulson. And I remember listening to one of his, he's a great marketing guy. And, he did this program called Piranha Marketing with Joe Polish, and I bought it and I was listening to it. And part of his story is he goes, my dad, who had never been an artist or anything, wanted to learn how to paint. And he went on to become, one of the guys on public access, the PBS, is the painter. And he would always go, now he wasn't Bob Ross, he was the other guy. That's how he had to describe his dad. Not Bob Ross, it's the other one. And I just remember thinking, I don't know who the other one is. Like, Bob Ross is the only one.
That's it.
That's the only one I could ever think of.
Listen, if you guys don't know, if you guys don't know, Through the Word, this is my constant joke with Through the Word, because we'll have these daily huddle meetings and I'll be like, what are you going to accomplish today? And almost every time I'm like,
dude, you know what you should ask Through the Word?
This is you. This is you, by the way. This is your influence. They go, what are you going to do? And I go, well, I'm going to do this and that, pretty much anything that accomplishes my goal of crushing the Bible Project. And that's just a joke, but that's so you. That is so your influence on me. I'm going to crush the Bible Project.
Wow, that's not really what I want to be known for. Hey, Pete's the guy who wants to crush the Bible Project.
Well, that's always been our sick joke, like whenever things, other church planning things, Pete and I used to always joke, we're going to crush them, because that's so like a non-Christian, non-ministerial viewpoint. And yet we came to find out, I think, that actually for some people wasn't.
You should ask Through the Word if we could do our live stream instead of on our Facebook page, on their Facebook page.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. So already I get more complaints, which I'm sure you can imagine listening to my recordings on Leviticus, right? Okay, Through the Word, I love them to death. They're good friends of mine, ministry partners, but they give me, and I actually like it, they give me all the books that are kind of left over. Like, no one wanted to do 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Can't figure out why. No one wanted to do Deuteronomy.
I still want to know who's doing Song of Solomon. Her hair is
That's
like
me.
A goat.
I'm on it now.
Are you?
I requested it.
That's awesome.
So like, oh no, can't do Ecclesiastes. That's taken. Can't do. So all the ones that are like, where people are like, oh, heck no. I take those and I love them, right? Because once you master those books, the rest of the Bible's a breeze, right? And it so enhances your knowledge and understanding of Scripture. So this is one of my passions. Anyways, I'm working for them, and yes, I'm doing Song of Solomon. But I was going to say, I get more complaints, as you could imagine, than anybody. I literally, whenever they go, hey, we got a complaint, I just brace myself. I know it's coming. So
it's a free service through the word, right?
Yep.
Do they offer them their money back? Oh, you've got a complaint. Would you like your money back?
No, they didn't.
They need me then. I'll handle those complaints.
Surprisingly, I get a lot of the complaints.
What do they complain
Funny
about?
enough, there was one time I mentioned how God, how he said to don't glean the edges of your vineyards or your crops, so that the foreigner among you can have some to eat when he passes through. And so I wasn't trying to say like, oh, we should give free health care to immigrants. I wasn't saying anything political, but I just said, hey, there's something to think about. When God created government, he told them to think about the foreigner among you, thinking when I did it that it would just cause people to stop and pause and weigh that in to what they're thinking. I literally I'm not super liberal on that. Obviously in the healthcare, we took care of tons of immigrants. Like there's the Hippocratic Oath, people show up, but they do not get the same care. I mean, if you're on Covered California, you're not going to get the same care as someone who pays privately. I'll tell you that right now. But there are levels of healthcare when you get to the hospital based on what you pay. Trust me. But bottom bucket, bare minimum is what is often given to. You just don't turn people away when they're dying or when it's just wrong. But the point is, I literally, in good conscience, was not making a political statement on that. I was literally just saying, hey, be a Berean, think for yourself, and factor this in. Don't just let someone tell you what to think. Just consider this and pray about it and think about it. What does that mean for me? What does that mean for America? Obviously, we're not Israel, so I don't draw a direct comparison. But like on that one, I went back and listened to what I had said, and there was no proviso like what I just explained. It actually came across very much like I was saying, not healthcare, because healthcare didn't even come into it. Except I said recently, I was trying to show the relevance of that topic. Recently in America, we had this debate, and I was just pointing to relevance of the topic, that God way back, I always want people to understand God was way ahead of his time, always culturally relevant. But anyways, without boring you anymore with needless detail, I actually wrote back and said, hey, I want to go back and correct that. So most of the time, people are right on it. Strangely, I know that's strange to hear me say that, right? The other day,
I had to wait like 3 years to get that soundbite that said, Pete was right.
It takes, it was a true work of the Holy Spirit. I changed on something else the other day. Like I would have absolutely gone to the mat and spilled my last drop of blood over an issue. I came out swinging against Joseph Smith, and I had to kind of backpedal and rethink how I would minister to a Mormon. Like I literally alienated. And Walter Martin used to say, don't do that. Don't attack this and that and that. There's a way to talk to a Mormon. There's a way not to. And I had to go back and say, hey, I'm going to go back and rethink. Now, what I will do is I will, rather than, because I was making fun of, my sense of humor. I said something that was offensive to her, and it was needlessly offensive. I could remove that offense.
Was it nearly as bad as what I said?
It was on par with what you said.
Yeah. Was it to the same person?
No,
Oh.
but the person was saying, hey, you know, so we met and we said, hey, this is actually making its rounds. And all of us had said, hey, at times, you know, but obviously I have a certain flair. I have a dark gift. And so I listened and I thought, now I'm not going to renege on the truth. And I'm definitely not going to, I'm not going to ever retract something that's a gospel truth or a truth that needs to be said. But the way I ridiculed the Mormon faith was inappropriate. And I'm going to pull back on that. I'm not going to ridicule them because I just alienated. And the person pointed out, hey, me and a ton of my Mormon friends are listening to this. And because we're understanding the Bible, and I'm thinking, well, this is great, because I had to put my missionary hat on. Like Walter Martin, if you're going to talk to a Mormon, you're going to talk to a JW, there's certain things you never do. And I violated Walter Martin's proviso on how to effectively reach. So like I said, and that to me, in days past, I'd be like, hey, you know what, tough, deal with it. That's the truth. You got it. But
you know, here's the interesting thing, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because I'm all out of TV shows to watch. I've been watching that Leah Remini Scientology show, right, where she's constantly going after the Scientologists. And one of the thoughts that goes through my head is, man, this is tough to communicate with someone, because we come from a position where we have these very strong beliefs, and we look at certain things and we're like, this is ridiculous. Like, how could you possibly believe this, XYZ, whatever that belief is? But yet at the same time, they could look at us and go, how could you possibly believe that a man was really God and he dies on a cross and raises from the dead, right? Like, so the same thing. Or, you know, even when I was having those early conversations with Wayne, he was like, a virgin? Really? A virgin gave birth? Come on. Like, how stupid are you to believe that? And I'm like, yeah, I could see how asinine that would sound to someone who doesn't believe what I believe.
You know, it's so funny, man, because I just had this talk with somebody the other day about how we get accused of magical thinking and believing things strongly without proof, faith. And I made the statement that the person had to agree with. And I said, you know, it's funny because people within the scientific community who often tell me that are the first to run to belief in aliens and claim, but there is proof, right? I saw an interview with Barack Obama and he said, I can't talk about it. There is this. Roswell did happen. It's all conspiracy and all this stuff, this magical thinking about these beings that came. And I'm not even denying that aliens exist. What I'm saying is it's the same thought processes that somebody who claims science, you know, evidence believes and has all the faith and will argue to their death with you that this, and all they've done is translate. So often when someone takes that turn, I'll refer to aliens and they go, oh,
well, it's kind of funny because like you even look at the whole theory of the universe. Okay. So what did the universe come from? Nothing. Okay, seriously, like the belief is nothing. Like that's just as giant of a belief as a God created it, to believe that it could come from literally nothing. Like, yeah, that's as big of a belief. That's just as big.
It's the same. Yeah. The actual belief that all matter we see came out of an explosion from something the size of a molecule or an atom, which is what they believe, right? So you got to think, okay, or a square inch of matter. That literally is that's a pretty improbable, implausible thing that yet we know is true somehow. Right. No matter what your view is of the origin, something impossible happened, you know?
Right.
That we can't explain, but they know to be true.
We should just do a show with Don Stoner. Just do like a series, a 10-part series.
Why don't we? Do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, it's happening. I will call him up and tell him.
But I'll tell you, he's got some beliefs that are definitely going to challenge people.
Well, he does. He believes in an old Earth. And
I don't just even mean that. I mean, like beliefs that go beyond that. That I've had conversations with him, and I'm like, okay, that's sure. That's
he's still within the realm of orthodoxy, but he is extremely scientific. And I'll tell you what, that dude knows history like the back of his hand. I mean, he'll be like, such and such Egyptian pharaoh. So those of you that don't know, Don Stoner, we'll introduce him and butter him up a bit, but he did help me. He was the guy who helped me with my textbook, but he literally, Don Stoner, helped invent the compact disc. Guy's loaded. He probably won't want me to say that when he's on, but he helped invent. He was on the team that invented the CD. And his
was it his father or his grandfather that worked on the
Manhattan Project? Or no, it wasn't. What was the one in the desert?
I thought it was the Manhattan Project. I thought that was the one.
I can't remember. It was Manhattan Project where they. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was a Manhattan Project. So his dad was a scientist, worked on that. So, I mean, Don Stoner has inherited some incredible brains. That's what I'm going to tell you. So, yeah, he's the man. And he debates, like, when I say he debates him, he doesn't, like, go on stage and debate him. He's in constant think tanks around these topics with a group of scientists and just constantly talks and sharpens and influences. And he's pretty impressive. If I called him up from my textbook, I say, "Hey, Don, what are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm just over here building a robot."
Yeah, and what he's talking about isn't some model that you get at the store.
Right. He builds robots, and he brought one. When he worked on the textbook, he brought one over to me. He goes, "I can make these in anything. I can make them into a dinosaur. I can make them." It's pretty funny. So he for a while worked at Hasbro. So all of the electronic talking things at Hasbro, that was his he did all those. So he'll list off, "Well, I did some Barbie and I did some," it's pretty funny. So, and that was after he's retired from the industry. He goes, "I just did that for fun." So he drive up to El Segundo and work at Hasbro. He's fascinating to talk to.
That's awesome.
So, okay, what we're going to talk about actually
Should we get to our
today.
subject?
Well, 20 minutes left on the podcast. Why not?
Great, Scott. It's time for this week's topic. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Oh, gosh, my throat.
You got the Rona.
Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna say
See,
anything.
that mask didn't help. Point in case.
Behave, Mitchell. So we're going to talk about the church planting. Well, it's called not the. It's a church planting manifesto for 21st century North America. And you can find this at the sendinstitute.org. Who wrote it, my good friend? Well, let me read you off these names. The drafters were Ed Stetzer, Jeff Christopherson, Daniel Yang, Dr. Sam George, Linda Berquist, Alan Hirsch, Karina Ellis, D.A. Horton, Rob Hoskins, Cass Mononico, Dr. Scott Moreau, Glenn Smith, Bill Hogg, J.D. Payne, Lizette Dillinger, John Davidson, and Dahadi Lewis, my former boss. Actually, two of these guys are my former bosses. One of them is a co-host on another thing. It's weird. I'm connected to so many of these people in weird ways. But I'm not on here, Pete. That's all I'm saying. They didn't ask me. But this thing is rad. Like, literally, it is the bomb. I know you're smirking. I had to mention. So I wouldn't have added anything to this, to be honest. I mean, this thing is amazing. It just came to my attention with Daniel Yang. And it's a 12-point manifesto of what should be guiding the church planter conversation. Because church planting has been in dire need of reformation for years. I think part of the strength of our podcast, Pete, has been that we've been calling out that reformation that needs to happen within church planting circles. And certainly the textbook Church Plantology that's dropping in March, which you can pre-order now on Amazon.com. Cha-ching! That is part of it. I mean, it's a reframing of church planting. I would say it's a paradigm shift of how you even think of how you define church planting to begin with. That's all in there. But I want to read through these 12 points. And Pete, I know we only have 18 minutes. So we got about a minute on each. Let me read them, and you stop me if one resonates with you. Okay. I'll just read them off and you stop me if you're like, oh, like Epstein on Welcome Back, Kotter. You ready?
Epstein didn't kill himself.
No, I mean Juan Epstein.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Remember on Welcome Back, Kotter?
Did you see that meme on Facebook? You know how Facebook is fact checking all the memes? Isn't it kind of interesting how they don't fact check any of the Epstein's didn't kill himself meme?
Oh, that's so funny. Did you see the one that's the air freshener that hangs from the rearview mirror of the car?
This air freshener didn't hang itself.
It's actually a cutout of Jeffrey Epstein as an air scent freshener. And it says, this air freshener did not hang
I want
itself.
one so bad. So bad.
Man. So, point 1, prayer and obedience to the Holy Spirit in light of the Word of God take priority over systems and structures. Boom! That's all I got to know right there. That one right there is amazing. Prayer and obedience to the Holy Spirit in light of the Word of God take priority over systems and structures. That's just hot. That's just one principle. There are 11 more to go, boys and girls. Church planting is both, this is number 2, church planting is both the impulse and the result of multiplying disciples who hear and obey God. The book, Church Plantology, largely documents this. I spend a good deal of time actually showing that mobilization is the key. So multiplying disciples will lead to church planting. Number 3. Every disciple or every believer is a disciple maker with a holy calling and vocation. So there's this call back to discipleship, which I think is going to be kind of important in the days to come. Principle 4, planting contextually appropriate churches will require much innovation and risk-taking, and much of this new learning will come from the church from around the world. You had me at innovation and risk-taking, reaching the unreached, cha-ching, but the examples of which the learning comes from the church around the world is such an important point, because America thinks it's got kind of the monopoly on ministry. The rest of the world should look to us and learn from us. And this manifesto is saying quite the opposite, and it's important. That's an important distinction. Number 5, planting churches that bear witness to the redemptive presence of the kingdom of God in the world requires a holistic engagement of the community with the whole gospel. And what's great about that is I'm hearing a little bit of Brad Briscoe, Leslie Newbegin come through on that. Brad loves Leslie, and Brad has a lot of valuable stuff on the whole gospel, holistically bringing the kingdom of God into a community. And that is very important. We don't have time to go into that's a big one to unpack. Number 6, multiplication. And we don't have time, by the way, because we talk too much about Richard Simmons. So blame Richard. Multiplication on movements require local churches taking responsibility for raising and spiritually parenting future church planting teams. Love the teams there. But multiplication on movements require local churches taking responsibility. So a church has to raise up teams and send them out. Number 7, biblical churches exist in various church models and sizes. Again, hashtag church plantology. I have a whole chapter about this, and I demonstrate all the different models in the New Testament and why they were different. And one of the things that we mentioned, because I've covered some of the content from the book, Church Plantology, cha-ching, by basically, we had a episode where I said mission determines models. And that's one of the church plantology principles that I lay down, is the mission dictated why that church in the New Testament had that particular model. 8, honor leadership from the harvest and contextualized pathways of leadership development. So not really I guess a principle is to honor leadership from the harvest. And the way that I see that is you're not waiting for people to go through seminary. You're not waiting for people to say, I feel called to the ministry. And I dismantled that early on in the book. I know we're talking the Manifesto. It's not my book. But there's just so much synergy like between what they're saying and what I've been saying. But the whole idea, I make a point that when someone comes to faith, I'm immediately, and I think I said this in Reach and Then Reach, I'm immediately looking at how to funnel them into a leadership pipeline, because I started seeing everybody as potential leaders, that if you disciple them well, leadership emerges. That was kind of the big takeaway from Reach and Then Reach. That shocked me. Once you have to contextualize your thoughts and crystallize your own thinking into words, that was the major lesson that God taught me at Refuge Long Beach. Number 9, healthy communication and collaboration among groups, especially at local levels, is an essential dynamic for multiplication. And I thought that was really good too. I've actually got 2 whole chapters about that in the book, 2 out of 20. So 10% of my book's on that very thing. Number 10, regular and ongoing evaluation of mission strategies, structures, and systems is necessary for contextually appropriate methods and models, which is a way of just saying, don't get stuck in your way of doing things. Needs to change. You need to analyze it. You need to assess it. And you need to change it. Mobilization, number 11, mobilization for mission is rooted in a hopeful belief in the progress and future reality of God's completed work and renewal of all things. What I loved about that is that, again, you and I talked, I would say that church planning, the apostle who specializes in church planning, he or she is, when he says it's rooted in a hopeful belief in the progress and future reality of God's completed work and renewal of all things, that is the eschatological drive of a church planner, that the kingdom of God is coming, and the church planner sees themselves as part of ushering the kingdom of God, bringing the kingdom of God's presence there. So it's an eschatological drive, meaning that one day the kingdom will be established on earth, and the church planner is caught up in that process. And that's kind of what that's saying. So it's eschatologically driven. That's what apostles are. And I mentioned that each of the 5 roles, it's just amazing to me, because I didn't put my fingers on this. But like 2 works independent of each other, we've come out believing. That's why when I read this, I was like, dude, this thing is exactly what I'm getting across in church plantology. I don't know when this came out,
but they were able to do it in a few pages, whereas you took like 1,000.
Yeah. No, I took 800, cut it down to 400, but whereas this is a manifesto, this, it's like a statement. It's a statement that this is how we will operate. Whereas church plantology shows you how. It's very practical. Men and women leading, it's theological and practical. Men and women leading in mission, this is number 12. Men and women leading in mission from different racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds is a demonstration of the power of the gospel. And that's kind of goes back to Exponential's theme, which has been together. This kingdom collaboration that's necessary, which I think Exponential's done a really good job over the past 6 months that I've been there. No, I'm teasing. I'm really impressed with Exponential. They have really, I think, Spirit-led, doubled down on this during their 2020 theme, but they keep unpacking it with all the civil unrest and ethnic tensions. They really went into this, and that's been one of the major projects I did with them. But I mean, these 12 principles, Pete, this is it, man. If you embrace these planners, you wouldn't go far wrong. I mean, these are super good. You can download this, by the way. Go to sininstitute.org. You'll see it, or just Google Church Planning Manifesto. It's a very, very, I think, relevant, important. I hope that everybody embraces this. I hope that people start operating by it. It's pretty dang cool. So that's what I have to say about that. Tim Keller's, so initial endorsers would be Drew Hyun, Tim Keller, Jesse Cruikshank, Dave Ferguson, Daniel M., Todd Wilson, my former boss, Craig Ott, which Craig Ott, by the way, Ott and Wilson wrote a book on church planning called Global Church Planning. That book was so good that when I kept referring back to it when I was prepping. I hadn't read it before I started writing my book. I was like, I don't even need to write my book. This book is so good. So,
But hey,
Dr.
I'm going to write mine anyway.
But hey, I got a contract and I need to fit. No, literally, humbly, I will say that book was so good that I almost sat back and said, why? I did. I sat back and said, why am I even writing? This book is so good. It's kind of like they said what needed to be said, but it's not that well known. But it's called Global Church Planning by Dr. Craig Ott and Wilson. I think it's the best existing resource out there, period. I won't say mine is. I just will say that book was amazing. Winfield Bevins, love Winfield. Love me a little bit of Winfield. Lynn Tang, director of Fuller Seminary Church Planning. Michael Gatlin, he's the church planning director for Vineyard. So it's an all-star cast here coming in. Bob Roberts. Nice. Yeah, it's a good cast.
Bob Ross, what?
Bob Roberts Jr.
Bob Roberts. Someone literally named their kid Robert Roberts.
Yeah. Jeff Vanderstelt endorsed it. I mean, there's a ton of people on it, but you would endorse this. I mean, it's kind of a, why wouldn't you? Why would you say no? But anyways, yeah.
That's cool.
Peyton Jones did not endorse it, but that is because Peyton Jones was not asked to endorse it.
Are you feeling a little bit like, am I not part of the inner circle?
Well, perhaps there's some of it, but it may be Southern Baptist primarily. I don't know. I mean, not all these guys are Southern Baptist, but yeah, no, I wasn't asked, so I didn't endorse.
I still think it's funny, man, that when I see pictures of us from years ago, how much darker your soul patch was, and now how white it is.
It's weird, isn't it? You and I have traveled a long distance together.
It doesn't seem like we've known each other that long, but when I see those pictures, I'm like, man, I had red hair. I had a red goatee. Now I got this white soul patch.
It's so funny, man, because there's not many people in the world where Andrew's like, you need to always keep that friendship. And my friendship with you is one of those where even where like things got tense with you and I, my tendency, and this is terrible about me, is to cut people off.
Oh yeah.
And
me too.
And Andrea has always said, there's been a couple times over the years where Pete and I we've had, but they're not that bad. I mean, our things were stupid. And Andrea,
I honestly remember one of them. I think there was a little bit of, I think, I got to
speak frankly. You can speak frankly.
I think
was it my ego?
I think the enemy was trying to split us up.
Yeah. There was one of those, and there was a time where it was my ego. I was just tripping out the other day where you sent that newsletter. And
oh, yeah.
I got really upset, and I was laughing at myself the other day. I was doing something, and I was like, oh, I've so moved on from that. Like, Pete could do that now. It wouldn't even bother me. You know what I mean?
I can't even remember what it was, but I remember why you were upset. But I don't remember what I was saying about it in the newsletter.
But I was going to say, Andrea is like, oh, she was like, multiple times over the years, she's been like, there's one friend you need to always keep, no matter what,
She'll change your tune. Give her enough time.
I don't think Jamie says that, though, right, about me. Is she like, that's the friendship you need to give up?
I think Jamie's like, do you have any friends? I don't think she really looks at me as a person who knows anybody.
That's so funny.
My friends are all virtual. Like, literally, when was the last time we saw each other face to face?
Right.
Over a year?
Yeah, it's been you did shun me on Thanksgiving. Let's be honest.
Hey, I didn't want to give you parvo.
I'm a human.
I didn't want you to take it back to your dogs.
But now that I know you're an anti-masker, I'm like, Pete, I can't hang out with you. All right. So.
Yeah, no, I'm an anti-masker. That's a fair statement.
Our friendship will continue to.
But what's funny to me is, and people have asked me this, I go, you don't understand. I am the guy that would love to wear a mask so no one knew who the heck I was everywhere I went. But the second you tell me I have to wear one, I'm not going to wear one.
That's so funny.
That's so my personality.
Hey man, look, I would, I know we're devolving back into smack talk, but Any thoughts on the manifesto there, Pete? I want to hear the Dean Martin to my Jerry Lewis take on this.
I would just like to say that I was the original person who wrote the Bivocational Pastors Manifesto.
Yeah.
Originally named the Church Planter Manifesto.
Nice.
So I just like to say I was the first. But,
you know,
but mine was all about here's how you make money as a bivocational pastor.
I know. I kind of think we ought to rethink that and go back to it and resurrect it. I wouldn't mind going back into that again. I'm working hard on some courses, brother. So for those of you that don't know, I literally was holding down 2 jobs at one time. I have officially, I'm still with Exponential in the sense that I'm running a show, the Frontline show on Mondays, which is a webinar, it's video. You can go to exponential.org, join the hub and join that. But I was going to say that I have stepped away from content director role to work with Through the Word, but there was a little bit of overlap. But what I will say is I can't just do I'll always as a hobby be building courses, and I'm going for courses. They will not be called Jump School.
I do not believe it. I still remember you and I were having a heart-to-heart. And this was like the 5th thing you were going to call Jump School. And then at the end of it, you're like, yeah, but I'm still going to call it Jump School. And I'm like, I give up. I
know. So, but hey, I got to go. I got to get off, and I got to end our little soiree in the world of church planning.
Well, let me ask you real quick before you get off and go. How do you deal with all this, manifesto business and these 12? How do you do that and still take care of IRS compliancy, workman's comp, all the payroll stuff that you got to do and running a church? How do you do all that?
Well, Pete, it's funny because, I have actually, trying to juggle 12 principles at one time, according to the Church Planning Manifesto, does not create the margin, as you could imagine, to do all my bookkeeping and IRS compliance. And I would need a 13th arm, Pete, to do it. But luckily there is such a thing. And it's called, oh yes, Pete, it is called, I had to think about it for a second there.
Wait. Do you remember when we were at Saddleback and I asked them if they had some hot sauce and they're like, no. And I go, what?
You did?
You lost it.
Oh, did I really?
You totally lost it.
Was that in our meeting with Steve Shogren?
It was either that or one of the
Gladden?
exponentials, or I don't know why we were there.
Were we? It wasn't the meeting where your Tom went off.
Well, it was in their cafe area. We were buying food or something.
Like milk come out my nose kind of laughter.
Yeah, you because it was all from that not Mormon, Seventh-day Adventist. Hey, we're a Seventh-day Adventist. We believe everything you Methodists believe, except we go to church on Saturday.
Doink, doink, doink. Oh, man. So good. I can still quote Flanders, the Flanders soundbite that we had on here. I can quote that verbatim. And I did so the other day with some friends.
We should actually tell everyone how you handle all that stuff.
I handle it on top of all of our sound bites, managing those, and these 12 principles of the Church Planning Manifesto. We go to simplifychurch.com, and they help us deal with all of our IRS bookkeeping and payroll needs.
Nice.
And we go to simplifychurch.com. SimplifyChurch.com, and they'll set you up. Tell them Pete and Peyton sent you so they keep sponsoring us. That would be rad.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't think they're going anywhere, Pete. They would have quit us by now.
No, he just hired me to help him out with some more marketing stuff. So
yeah, he called me the other day, and he's like, I can't quit you, Peyton Jones. No, he didn't say that, but that's from a chick flick. You wouldn't know that.
I know what that's from, and we just were talking about Richard Simmons. I don't know why. I don't know where your head's at in this episode. That's all I'm saying.
All I can tell you is I dug a 120-foot trench, so I am well up on my man points. That's all I'm saying. So
they slipping fast.
It's slipping, brother. It's my feminine side crying out for attention after doing such manly things. But anyway, part of me just likes making you uncomfortable.
It's a really good thing that we have our emails go directly to the trash and spam, so that way we don't have to deal with all the people who are complaining about our podcast.
I dig it. Well, guys, hopefully you dug this episode. This has been Peyton. And by the way, yes, we were over on Smack Talk. I think we just did 10 minutes of church planning today. It was probably a record.
It's not so much about the quantity as it is the quality.
Ooh,
we gave
like
10 minutes of quality church planning.
We gave you 10 minutes of 12 principles to get your life sorted by. Come on, go sort yourself out. Thanks for joining us today. Join us again next week for the Church Planter Podcast. This has been Peyton Jones and Pete Mitchell reminding you, if you want to reach the ones nobody's reaching, you got to go where nobody's going and do what nobody's doing.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planter Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planter Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplanterpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planter Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplantermagazine.com.